Finally we get a new monologue, but this one is not so special as the next one about hate. What I enjoyed here is Nolan's obviously ridiculous disguise. He looks not like a nurse but like the Candyman. And I love Emily's look, if you can speak of that. She looks really fragile and like she has lost all of her energy. And this darker hair suits her. She looks more grounded. Again they are using this trope that she is ready to give up until Victoria says something that makes her hate come back even stronger. In season 1 it was her lie about David having raped her. As excuse why Charlotte is not Conrad's but David Clarke's daughter. About Niko and Aiden again. This went down very fast. I really thought she could be a new helpful ally. But now they are very fast in this jealousy plot with her and Emily. I will never understand why they cannot let this fall. Can two women not be friends? Even if a man is involved. Okay, it is mostly Aiden's fault cause he should not have slept with Niko in the first place. But why can she not accept that he has changed his mind when he could be together with Emily again? For me this looks just forced to keep them separated for several episodes, just like they will do it with Emily and Jack in the last season. About Daniel and Sara. Jack. This was my favorite scene with Sara. She was really fearless and empowering by putting Daniel into his place, and all she is saying is so true. I wish she would have stood by her words and let Daniel be. He is really a bad influence for her. And I was cheering when I saw Jack's reaction. Him protecting Sara since Daniel has already a track record in hurting women was more than nice to see. And him hitting Daniel was even more satisfying. It was exactly what he deserved in that moment. And I am sure Jack enjoyed it as much as the audience. About Victoria taking Emily hostage. I was happy that this lasted not that long. For me this was a bit too much dwelling into old storylines from season 1. When Victoria held Lydia hostage after she awoke from her coma. I know it is a similar situation. With Lydia almost killed by Frank, the Graysons had to be aware of what she would remember and if she was going after them cause Frank was sent by Conrad and Victoria. Here they and especially Victoria are afraid what Emily might say over Daniel. After all he was the one who shot her and if she remembered that she could try to retaliate or at least go to the police, something Victoria is desperate to prevent. So she brings Emily into Grayson Manor with Niko's help. I must admit even though Aiden freaks out it was the best Niko can do to offer her service as a nurse for Emily. Who knows what they had done to Emily if she were not there to watch over her and the Graysons. And it is smart of Emily to play dumb until she is not that weak anymore. In her condition she cannot stand a fight with Daniel or any one of the Graysons, so she has nothing left to do than to be patient and try to regain her power as fast as possible. I like this little subtle gesture when he kisses her. She seems to be really afraid of him. No surprise since she never thought he could hurt her like this before he actually shot her. About Niko's tattoo. Another thing I hated about her story. Why does she have this tattoo? Does it belong to the Revenge Skull? I thought it was a personal thing cause that double infinity symbol was a code between Amanda and her father. Now that they showing as a second but different tattoo they diminish its unique meaning. About Jack visiting Emily with baby Carl. This scene was just so sweet. I still cannot concentrate on the dialogue with this cute baby actor and that puppy dog. I love that they trying to bring back some memories from season 1 like Sammy with this cuddly dog. And this little man was surely the sweetest and most beautiful version of baby Carl. By the way, I was very much disappointed by the kid they casted for season 4. But that is another story. With Emily dreaming about her own family and baby Carl in her arms, the next scene with Victoria was the more sad and devastating to watch. This one is still a cruel scene for me. Even more as a woman. I still cannot get over this and have to believe that Victoria lied. It was bad enough that Emily lost many of her loved ones, but this is something that will affect her future forever. The idea that Victoria told her this only to take revenge and hurt her to the core is just so despicable. I think besides spoiler alert killing Aiden, this was the most cruel thing she did to Emily. Even if she cannot know what having children of her own mean to Emily or if it means anything at all to her. The way she revels in Emily's reaction shows how ruthless and cold-hearted Victoria is. Lying about this would be even worse, but it is something I would be confident for her to do at any time. Maybe they kept it in the dark because they had in mind turning it around later if they had explored Emily's life after her revengender. In fact, on that fanfiction side I mentioned in another episode, there is a story with Emily and Jack who discover that she can have children. Because suddenly Amanda is pregnant and they have a child of their own. I think it was a girl. Anyway, I loved Madeleine Stowe's performance in this scene. In some close shots it looks as if she is as devastated as Emily about this news, which makes it more reliable. Like her proposition to confirm it with another doctor. Most cruel was her hint at Daniel, as if Emily really wanted a future and a family with him. What I never understood was that Emily did not seek a second opinion. Victoria is surely capable of faking such medical records. She did it before with the help of the Falcon to hide her first pregnancy. I guess Emily is too much emotionally involved and too shattered to think about this being a lie. And since they showed us multiple times that she was shot twice in the abdomen, it could really be true that they had to remove her ovaries. Maybe the writers thought of this as a price for her revenge. Cause in the making of the show's creator talked about it that Emily's punishments for her targets should always be equal to their deeds, as some kind of a balance like in the Bible with one eye for another. So this could be the punishment for her pregnancy lie. And I guess in this season they wanted to continue what with Formander's death began. Showing what Emily has to sacrifice in her war with the Graysons, in order to tell the audience that revenge comes with a price. About Niko and Aiden again. Even watching this for the 100th time I still cannot figure out what Niko's agenda is. Does she really want to help Emily regain her strength for the war with the Graysons? Or does she want to interfere with her and Aiden and make them break up? So that she can get back together with him. Cause keeping them separated seems not that good for Emily's and Aiden's relationship after all. Since the failed attempt to bring her out of the hospital, she did not speak with Aiden again. He seems pretty much helpless, especially if you think about that he is asking his ex-girlfriend to help him keep in contact with his fiancée. Maybe it would have been better if he turned to Nolan or Jack for help, since they both actually spoke with Emily. I cannot quite understand why they did not plan to give him at least 1 minute with Emily by helping him disguise like Nolan. He is the one Emily says she wants still to run away with and build a future together, yet both seem not to put that much effort to contact each other. Until they finally break up they did not see or spoke to each other. So if that was Niko's goal, she did a great job. About Patrick stealing Emily's infinity box and giving it to Victoria. This compilation was one of the most exciting scenes in the first half of the show. They really made us believe it could be the real box. And I like that Niko is that hard to Emily. Cause she is right. If they know her real identity, Emily will not only lose this fight, she could end up in jail or worse, be killed by the Graysons. They cannot know her real identity until she is saved somewhere else with or without Aiden. Or when she has finished her mission and the Graysons are in jail or dead so they can no longer harm her. Hitting her in the stomach was the perfect lesson to show Emily what she will have to endure because of the Graysons. And I love how she states her point. Maybe there is a lot of jealousy and envy in her, but Niko presents the facts right. Emily will never have a normal life when she lets the Graysons still have power over her. What I enjoyed in the scene with Nolan and Patrick was the double duplicity in this. First, Nolan pretending to be drunk and only drinking water, so that Patrick has to show his real face by hitting him. And then afterwards the big reveal that everything was planned that way and he left with the fake infinity box. The idea with that forgery was genius, and I do not think that Nolan put it together that fast. He is good but not that good. I think he made the copy when Emily gave her the infinity box in the first place at the beginning of this season. He already read the journals and maybe took a look at the other material in the box, so he surely was alarmed that she kept everything that could expose her and her crimes, since they both broke the law multiple times since season 1. As kind of a reassurance, he made up some evidence himself so that Victoria's theory about Emily being just a fraud was proven with facts. But I think in the end Emily always knew this would only buy her a limited amount of time. Since Victoria now was behind decoding her plan and digging deeper into her past, I still enjoy the end of the scene with Victoria assuming Emily is not her real name and this little grin of Emily. It is not only because she is happy that Victoria bought all the fake information. She enjoys that the Graysons are still clueless about who she really is and what she is really capable of. And maybe also a little bit happy about that she can resume her revengenda and make the Graysons still pay. About Emily's press conference. In this context I cannot understand why she is covering for Daniel. It was a smart move using the press attention to announce who shot her. But I still cannot see why she did not tell the truth and broke with the Graysons. I can only assume that she is still in love with Emily. Maybe in a sick love-hate relationship, but she does not want to see him in jail for the rest of his life. And since her blackouts are starting to begin soon, she is probably not in her right mind when she planned this. If this had happened in the last season or even in season 1, she would have not thought twice telling the truth and taking Daniel down. Because by the end of season 1 she really hated Daniel and several times talked about how Daniel is just like his parents. They try to tell us why she did this when she talks about it with Aiden later. But I do not buy her excuse that she wants to stay in the inner circle to have a better angle at the Graysons. Her plan destroying them from the inside with Daniel's involuntary help failed. So she would have done better by coming up with a new plan. First step would have been to break with the Graysons and go back to her beach house, where she is not in danger. So as much as I enjoyed her War of Roses with Daniel and Sara, for the Revengenda plot it was a major roadblock. 'Cause it bound her energy and she lost focus. Nonetheless I enjoy this scene still. 'Cause her revelation was surprising. The looks she shares with Daniel and Victoria made me believe she was about to seal Daniel's fate and they both were surely afraid of it. But her last hateful look at Victoria makes it clear that she is still her main target. About the puppy dog again. Though I cannot understand why they use a walkie-talkie and no cell phone, it was nice idea of Nolan smuggling it in with the puppy dog. Even if it is not said, Nolan tries to bring Jack and Emily together. After all, it was his idea that he should speak with Emily instead of letting Aiden make a second attempt after he failed to bring her back. And he surely wanted to arouse good childhood memories with the little cuddly dog. By the way, I love the dress she is wearing in this scene with the leaves and the birds. Looks like autumn and a nice little hint as her status being caged by the Graysons like a bird in a cage. So this press conference was her attempt to break free. About Emily and Aiden breaking up. As I said before, it is not understandable why she is making it a reason that she cannot have children. I think it is just an excuse because she cannot walk away from her hate. It is like when they broke up in season 2. She cannot and will not give up her revenge for Aiden. And he obviously does not want to help her anymore. So she has no other option left than to give in her hate again. I can understand why Aiden is that devastated, cause he surely awaits her being strong enough to leave the Hamptons with him. He did not expect that she would reassume her revengender after she failed that big. And Nolan surely told him about what Emily said in the hospital. So for him this comes really out of the blue and must feel really selfish. What smooths it a little bit is the infinity carving, making us remember why she is doing all this. Now she has even more reason to punish them since they robbed a part of her future by making it impossible to have her own children. And the dialogue shows the two different perspectives on this. Emily and a part of the audience as well think she has to make them pay even more since they took this possibility away from her. The other part thinks more reasonable, like Aiden, this is an even better reason to walk away from her revenge and put as much distance between her and the Graysons as she can, in order to stop her from suffering any more pain and loss. Her last quote is one of my favorites. It may be cliché, but it's so simple and true. 'Cause with Victoria and now with Daniel, too, Emily has a real sick love-hate relationship. She just loves to hate and punish them. About Aiden, Niko and Takeda's murder. Here they make it right, showing us the flashback to make us see what happened and why Aiden has this bad conscience. It is not because of Emily but because what he did to Takeda, Niko's father. Maybe they thought we had forgotten that Aiden killed him, or they wanted to make it clear for a new audience of the show. Either way, I did not like that story arc. I told you before why I would prefer if Niko would just think Aiden killed Takeda and it was not actually true. He could have been killed by the Initiative or by the Graysons. 'Cause these people were not only Emily's enemies. But since we had that storyline, I wish they would have used it for more than the fight between Emily and Niko in one of the later episodes. I mean, since she was after Aiden in her blackouts, both women could have worked together instead of against each other. Nowadays they would have made an empowering story arc with both women being scorned by Aiden and take revenge on him. Instead they make Aiden use Niko to feel better. Obviously trying to forget Emily cause she broke up with him. To be fair, he treated Niko really badly. Even though I did not like her character at all because it was that superficial and sometimes only there to be odd. And bring strange conversations and situations on. You will see what I mean when we get to those scenes. Anyway, he should have not only told her the truth but never rebond with her. I mean, how sick is this? He killed her father, is still in love with the woman who stole all the attention of her father from her. About Emily, Daniel and Victoria. I like this scene. It is interesting how fast this hatred comes up in Daniel. He seems to hate and be disgusted of her just like Emily feels for his mother Victoria. I still cannot tell if Emily is just speaking like this to taunt them both. 'Cause she is speaking again with that fake little voice we know from season 1. Or if she is really losing it and thinks she could actually win Daniel back. Maybe she was only stalling time like the writers to regroup. Since she has still no new plan to complete her revenge and take down the Graysons. About Daniel and Sara. This was the turning point for me. It was annoying to see how easy Daniel can manipulate her. He may be telling the truth about Emily, but he depicts her merely as a monster who does this only to torture him. And he conveniently lies about not shooting her. I guess he was afraid how Sara would react. 'Cause a normal woman would have run away from him since he admitted to murder his own woman. It is really hard to stomach how he depicts himself as the victim here. In some kind he is cause Emily trapped him into this marriage and kept his hopes up about a happy future with her as a family. But that does clearly not justify him shooting her and lying about it. They are both the bad in this story and no one is innocent. But he gets what he wants. Now Sara is literally crawling back into his arms.